Good evening, you're watching This Week, a weekly news review program. I'm your host, Amir Khambatar. And for our top stories, the government of Mongolia to boost economic and business projects through investments. South Korea and Mongolia take relations to the strategic partnership level. Renovations begin for some of Mongolia's 1,500 historic buildings. And for the news, stay tuned. President of Mongolia, Khursukhna, held an online summit with his South Korean counterpart, Moon Jae-in, and discussed bilateral cooperation in tackling COVID-19 and other global issues. The online meeting marks the first summit between the two countries' leaders since President Khursukh's election in June, and the second meeting between the two leaders since the president's visit to South Korea in January 2018 as Prime Minister.
During the virtual summit on Friday, South Korea and Mongolia upgraded the two countries' relations to the level of strategic partnership. Mongolia plays a high-profile role as a mediator on issues related to security on the Korean peninsula. Chonwade, the office of the President of the Republic of South Korea, sees Mongolia as a key partner in terms of President Moon's New Northern policy, which is focused on boosting ties with countries to the north of South Korea. The two sides adopted a joint declaration of strategic partnership to elevate bilateral relations in a future-oriented manner to enable the countries to further contribute to regional peace, stability, and prosperity. The declaration also is designed to deepen and expand cooperation in 5 areas: politics and security, the economy, trade and investment, education, science and technology, the environment and health, culture, tourism, and people-to-people exchanges, and regional and international matters. The two countries established bilateral ties in 1990. They established friendly cooperation in 2006 and comprehensive partnership in 2011. South Korea and Mongolia celebrated the 30th anniversary of their relations in the 2020. More than 200,000 people a year traveled between the two countries before the pandemic. Mongolia is a key partner in the New Northern Policy, President Moon's initiative to establish stronger economic cooperation with the Russian Far East, Northeast Asia, and Eurasia, which also has synergy with the Mongolian government's long-term national development policy Vision 2050, adopted last year. South Korea is Mongolia's 5th largest trading partner. Moon highlighted the potential for more substantive partnership in fields such as eco-friendly investment and the distribution of minerals to achieve joint prosperity through new cooperation. President Moon noted that Korea is a high-tech powerhouse and Mongolia, one of the top 10 resource-rich countries in the world, have great potential for substantive cooperation utilizing complementary economic relations. He called for ways to expand mutual cooperation in green energy and other eco-friendly industries. The two leaders further shared that overcoming COVID-19 and responding to climate change are common challenges for both countries and agreed to actively cooperate in the areas of health, medical care, the environment, and science and technology. They also agreed to support South Korean companies interested in participating in supplying energy, developing smart cities, and establishing distribution and logistics systems in Mongolia. The two leaders agreed to work closely together in the regional and international arenas to contribute not only to regional prosperity and stability, but to global peace as strategic partners.
Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to Mongolia, Kibayashi Hiroyuki, presented the Order of the Rising Sun to the former Speaker of Parliament and Senior Advisor to the current Speaker of Parliament, Lunde Jansung.
Next year will mark the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries. Grants, self-loans, and other assistance from the Japanese people and government were very helpful to Mongolia during the difficult times of transitioning to market economy. In 1990s, the Japanese cooperated and assisted in many projects related to the schools, hospitals, social organizations, the energy sector, agriculture, and the conservation sector. Almost every sector received their support. All of this, along with the Japanese parliament and its members, has guided the government, and we have been cooperating for many years. I would like to celebrate and appreciate this today. I'm also very happy that our Japanese government appreciates his merits and contribution to Japan-Mongolia relation, and that the government has awarded him the highest honors today.
Senior advisor to the Speaker of Parliament, Lunde Jansa, has been a member of the Mongolian Japanese parliamentary group since 2000.
Хүн хоорондоо харилцаа байдаг л да.
Diplomatic relations are interpersonal relations. Depending on how active and diligently people work, relationship can go smoothly. The strategic partnership between our two countries is based on the friendly relation between generations of statesmen and public figures and the generations of people.
Найрсаг сайн харилцаа.
Other high-ranking Japanese politicians have also congratulated Lunde Jansa on receiving the high state honor granted to non-Japanese recipients.
There are about 1,500 buildings that are a significant part of Mongolia's architectural heritage. Most of these buildings are 80 to 100 years old and don't meet today's safety standards. To address the issue, the government has started renovations for some of these historic buildings.
The list of high-risk historic buildings includes the State Drama Theatre, the Opera House, and the buildings of Ulaanbaatar's museums. Professional inspection officers have concluded that some of the buildings can be renovated rather than being demolished.
These buildings that were built in the 1950s and 1960s are part of our cultural heritage. We should renovate these buildings rather than demolishing them and building new ones.
Mongolia is pursuing a policy of renovating and improving its historic buildings. The government has already created a budget for the renovation of 2 museum buildings. We urgently need to renovate our old cultural buildings. The government has included the renovation costs for the Churchen Lama Temple Museum and the Bogtan Museum in the 2022 budget. In addition, we need to install security cameras and alarm systems as soon as possible in museum buildings that house our cultural heritage. This will allow us to monitor and better protect exhibits. In other countries, old buildings like these are considered part of our country's historical and artistic heritage. Significant buildings that were built more than 50 years ago are often considered sites of tangible cultural heritage.
Deputy Foreign Minister Mukhchen, who is currently on a working visit to the United Kingdom, met with Daniel Kawczynski, the UK Prime Minister's trade envoy to Mongolia, at Westminster Palace on September 30th.
Deputy Foreign Minister Mukhchen, who is currently on a working visit to the United Kingdom, met with Daniel Kawczynski, the UK Prime Minister's trade envoy to Mongolia, at Westminster's Palace on September 13th. During the meeting, the two sides exchanged views on the current level of trade and economic cooperation between Mongolia and the United Kingdom, perspectives on future development, and issues of regional and international interest. Deputy Foreign Minister Mukhchen expressed his interest in expanding friendly relations and cooperation between Mongolia and the United Kingdom in all fields, particularly bilateral economic cooperation, trade, and investment. He stressed that increasing trade turnover is an important means of support for the diversification of Mongolia's exports and developing the production of value-added products. The Deputy Minister invited Mr. Kawczynski to visit Mongolia in the near future. He expressed his willingness to provide information on Mongolia's trade and economic environment and to organize meetings with representatives of major Mongolian businesses. In February 2021, Deputy Foreign Minister Mukhchen and Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the United Kingdom to Mongolia, Philip Malone, exchanged notes on Mongolia's inclusion in improved terms of trade, which covered 7,200 Mongolian products. The country's access to the British market would be tax-free and preferential. Mongolian-British trade turnover in 2020 was $117 million.
In the early 1900s, Minister Erden Batran initiated the opportunity to study in a country far away from home to the most excellent students in the country. At the recent exhibition, facts and details of what happened after these students were sent abroad are shown on display to the public.
These young men are students named Ayurzang Dugursurung Namsra Ortnasang, who were taken by the Minister of Mongolia's People's Enlightenment Ministry, Erden Batran himself, to study in France from 1926 to 1930. Mongolia knew it had to expand its foreign relations with other countries apart from only Russia and China to keep up with the global developments. That's why in the early 1900s, Minister Erden Batran initiated the opportunity for study in a country far away from home to the most excellent students in the country. At this exhibition, facts and details of what happened after these students were sent abroad on a display to the public.
This minister has made major contributions to not only education but also to science. For instance, in 1926 he played a big role in having a Mongolian atlas printed in France at the request of Mongolia.
When I was younger, I was never told anything about my grandfather. Later, around 1995 or 1996, many people and media started to talk about him. I believe that my father didn't want to talk about my grandfather as he had been politically repressed. Now we know of him through media, newspapers, etc.
Young Mongolians who were educated or were being educated in the West, including great poet Natsagdorj, were often targeted as repression victims. The Mongolian students in France were brought back to Mongolia before graduation only to be accused of being spies from France or Germany, for some to be beheaded and for some to get imprisoned for many years.
Even though Mongolia did not have a big budget, these students were supported by the state policy. As a result, they became top scholars in the country. For instance, apart from the 4 students who studied in France, we can name Natsagdorj, the great poet, writer Namdik, renowned artist Namkhatsirang, renowned teacher Batsukh, and others who were all leaders in their respective fields.
Fortunately, Ayorzang and Dugursorung managed to survive the political repression years and lived up to become state prize winners and academicians of sciences. The former Minister of Education, Mr. Batar Betlik, who was introduced to where the students studied and how they were prepared to become the Mongolian elite after over 90 years, indicated this to us.
Throughout history, the Mongolian government aspired to send its students and youth to study in developed countries at every opportunity. Importantly, students who gained education abroad should return to their country and make contribution to the development in their respective fields. We are also working to make situation for the overseas graduates to return and live back in Mongolia as favorable as possible by making some legal adjustments.
Mongolia is currently working with a number of universities in France.
After a regular cabinet meeting, the Minister of Finance, Jiaohlang, introduced the year's budget bill. Under the budget law, the first draft to next year's budget bill will be introduced on September 15th of each year. The Minister of Finance also introduced a new policy on economic revival, a bill to accelerate economic recovery during the pandemic. We have drafted the budget with the assumption that the economic recovery will continue next year. In this context, we will implement a policy to revive the national economy and to intensify post-pandemic economic expansion. In doing so, we will increase the returning income on investment and ensure that every occurring expenditure would be beneficial to society. In addition, reforms will be implemented to support the economy and business sectors. Moreover, the policy on combating congestion will be implemented in Ulaanbaatar for the next 4 years. In addition, the restructuring of public institutions will continue. For example, this year we have shifted to performance-based funding in the health sector, and we plan to introduce the same practice in the education and culture sectors as well. There are 198,000 civil servants in Mongolia. Therefore, within the framework of public-private partnership, some tasks or projects will be contracted to the private sector, and reforms will be started to reduce the size of the public institutions.
Mongolia exported 36.5 million tons of coal in 2019, but in 2021 this quantity is expected to drop to 16 million tons because of the pandemic. According to the budget bill, 36.5 million tons of coal will be extracted next year. The Minister of Finance said that Mongolia should use this opportunity next year as the prices of our main export products such as coal, gold and copper are expected to grow on the world market. The government will finalize the budget bill and submit it to Parliament for discussion on January 1st. The Minister of Finance also said the decision to exempt people from the utility bills will expire on December 31st of 2021.
On July 2nd, Parliament of Mongolia amended the law on public holidays. Following this decision, the weekends of the 3rd weeks of May and September were announced as the days of national literature and culture. In this context, the book festival will be organized for the 30th time on September 18th and 19th. The festival is organized by the Book Culture World NGO under the motto Book Festival, Our Holiday.
On the eve of the holiday, the Speaker of Parliament, Tandon Shutter, organized an event called Book Festival, Our Holiday.
Parliament of Mongolia has officially legalized the organization of book festivals in order to pass on the traditions of our ancestors. Mongolians have a great history of national script and culture. With the National Day of Literature and Culture, writers can display their books during the event twice a year and get a chance to meet their readers. People who like reading books will grow and prosper, and if one doesn't read, he or she will lag behind. Therefore, if we develop our youth's intellectual potential, in the future we can benefit from their potential and perspectives. Last year's book festival encouraged children to read at least 5 pages a day. This year's motto is Let's Read Every Day.
Then he noted that the Fourth Industrial Revolution should focus on the promotion of book culture through the establishment of electronic libraries and the introduction of IT technology into traditional libraries. During the ceremony, an exhibition of photos from Montema News Agency taken from past festivals were displayed. Each year, the Wise Book Trophy, in the form of a gobi bear or mazala holding a book, is given to public figures and people who have contributed to the promotion of national literature and culture. At the initiative of the speaker, this year the Wise Book Award for Public Figure was presented to Shagdar Surang, a married trade worker and former member of parliament, while Writer Censure's book was selected as the best book.
Now let's take a look at sports news that happened this week. New Yokozuna Terunofuji got off to a winning start on Sunday at the Autumn Grand Sumo Tournament. The 29-year-old Terunofuji fell short of a third straight championship in July in Nagoya, but his 14-1 record was enough to earn his promotion to the sumo's highest rank. New Yokozuna Terunofuji got off to a winning start on Sunday at the Autumn Grand Sumo Tournament, but Ozeki Shodai and Takakisho both suffered upset losses in their opening bouts. Terunofuji, who acquired his Japanese citizenship in early August, quickly got a left overarm bout hold against the giant Komusobi and drove forward to end the bout in a matter of seconds. With the sport only at the Grand Champion Hakuho sidelined due to the COVID-19 cases at his stable, Terunofuji is the firm favorite to win his 5th Korea Emperor's Cup at the 15-day meet. It would be another accolade in an already remarkable career for the Mongolian-born grappler, whose knee injuries and other health issues saw him drop from the second highest rank of Ozeki to 50th Junidan before an unprecedented comeback. The two Ozeki, hoping to challenge him for the title, were far from their best on the opening day. Shodai fell victim to number 1 Megishira Hashoryu, nephew of former Yokozuna Sashoryu, who put in an impressive performance to make it 3 head-to-head wins out of 3 against the Ozeki. The Japan Sumo Association has kept the number of spectators at 5,000, half the capacity of Ryokoku Gokugigan. The capital is under a COVID-19 state of emergency until the end of this month. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you next week with more news and updates. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.